Listen to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast, only on the OG Network.
You can listen to new episodes every Thursday on the OGPodcastNetwork.com. We hope to entertain, teach, inspire, all while offering some insight into this super cool North Carolina food and beverage scene. Take a listen, eat and drink merrily.
You're listening to the NCF&B Podcast. Tell your friends to find us on iTunes at NCF&B Podcast. And remember, the ampersand is simply shift the number 7 on your keyboard. And share our website, ncfbpodcast.com. There you'll find pictures, show notes between shows, and links to content where we've discussed on each episode. And follow us on Twitter and Instagram at NCFBpod. This show is sponsored by Food Scene. That's food-seen.com, providing professional photography, social media management, website design, and graphic design services for the food and beverage industries of North Carolina. Foodscene.com. And now, enjoy the show.
Listening to the NCF&B Podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I am your co-host, Matthew Weiss. And we are once again downtown Wilmington on beautiful Market Street. And this time, we have an angel with us, the angel of Manna, Mr. Billy, a.k.a. Wim, for those of you who know him on Facebook, Mellon. Welcome, sir.
Good morning, friends. How are you?
We're doing
Excellent.
great, man.
Your light is shining. You know?
There's an aura behind
Exactly.
me.
Yeah, you do have a sparkling personality, I will say that. You kind of could jump off the page.
Oh, so cute. You guys are great. Continue. More of that, please.
Well,
Yes.
we were getting acquainted, but of course the first time we ever met was out in beautiful Charleston for BevCon earlier this year. And we were just kidding around and talking about our pretty fantastical lunch we had at
Leon's.
At Leon's, thank you. I can never remember anything. But yeah, started with Cap Franc sparkling rosé, a lot of oysters. We did, I know there was a couple beers in there because I ordered a few.
Chicken sandwiches.
Chicken sandwiches.
There was a chicken sandwich in there, too.
I remember Matty Beeson and Andre Mack were just sitting at the bar the whole time. And it was just a vibe. It was a cool place to be and having good food and good times. So, you know, in researching you and talking about things, it's kind of your vibe too. You do a lot of fun things. You make Manna fun. You're doing music. You're doing a lot of live events, things like that. You bring the party.
We try to do it a little bit on our own sort of way. We want to try to do things a little bit off the cuff from time to time. We're kind of a high-end restaurant, and we want to take a little of the shine off of that because people tend to come in and think we're snooty, think that we're, above board with hoity-toityism. I guess is that a word?
Yeah,
and
sure. We could say it.
We want to sort of take a little of the shine off of it and let people come in and relax and still have great hospitality and have some high-end wines and some good cocktails and just have fun. It's more about having fun and staying driven by this restaurant industry that we are all involved in.
So, Billy, Wilmington is like kind of your baby, and you've had chances in your life to move to San Francisco, Austin, Texas, like Italy, but you decided this is where you're making home, and this is like the food scene that you are going to puff your chest out and talk about, profess.
Well, I appreciate your research department. Yes.
They do a great job. Let me give a kudos to our research.
They're highly paid.
Thank you, our research department. I don't know your names, but I'll learn them.
Yeah, so I moved here from Raleigh, as a matter of fact, in the mid-'90s, and chased a young lady and sort of was just going to stick around for a while and surf and catch fish and catch a buzz and figure it out. And then, I just kind of fell in love with this city and the beach and the coast and the people. And yeah, I had opportunities to leave. I'm from Texas originally. That kind of came calling a little bit. My family came calling a bit. I had an opportunity to go teach English in Italy, in northern Italy, and outside of Verona. And
you were going to teach outside of Verona?
Yeah, I went there. I studied abroad.
Or were you going to do the American version of Romeo and Juliet, or
Romeo and Juliet? Yeah, I'd met a family that
Rick and Julia.
That's a song by John Mellencamp.
Oh yeah, little ditty about Jack and Diane.
About Rick and Julia.
Something like that.
Though I had a friend that hosted me, and I was teaching him. He was a dentist, and he was trying to be international, and he wanted to get his resume out there. And so I was teaching him a little bit of English, and then I got a couple of gig offers, and they were going to let me stay there. And it was one of those things where I could have worked in a wine bar, taught English, and then figured out what I wanted to do from there. But in the end, I ended up coming back here and realizing that I had invested a lot of time here. I'd kind of grown roots.
Yeah, you know everybody in this town.
I know a few people, and that's always good. I mean, there's some people that like to leave the pond and go to the ocean, and I kind of like being in the pond. It's nice to me to be able to make a phone call if something happens, good or bad. If somebody needs something, good or bad, I can make a phone call, hopefully, and they'll respond, and we'll be able to help somebody out.
So if you were talking about Wilmington to somebody who had no idea, maybe even what about North Carolina is, or whatever, what's the key points? What's the differentiating factor of what makes Wilmington tick?
Wilmington, to me, is a place where the slate was clear as far as, for me, in the hospitality industry. There was nothing here. It was blank. There was a few restaurants that had done some things, but there was never 5 restaurants that had done some things at the same time. That was what I thought was a great opportunity for me to stand here, maybe put a flag in the ground and try to beckon some friends and other folks from around the area, or to come here and venture into this market. And with the coast, with people who like fishing, who like to surf, it's a cool, slow place, but it also has a little bit of speed. I guess I rambled enough to say that I like it here, and you should too. But I think what makes Wilmington so beautiful, in my opinion, is that there is opportunity here. It's like what it used to be, maybe to go west, now maybe is to come back east.
One of the main reasons we're here today is to visit Vivian at Benny's Big Time. And so Vivian, obviously with a nationally syndicated show on PBS, that's kind of bringing some nice notoriety to the fact that she opened up a place in Wilmington, right?
I think so. I mean, when Dean came here, I think the original group of folks that were here were Keith from Catch, and James worked under the chef at Portland Grill, where I worked at, before he took off to Charleston and found himself. And for a while, it was.
When you say James, you're saying
James Doss from RX
and Pembroke.
Well, he just sold Pembroke, so he's going to get strong again, because he's going to be focused on one thing, which I think is good for him. But for the longest time, there wasn't anybody here. There was one restaurant, and then Dean comes and brings some credibility from working under a great tutor, if you will, or lineage of fantastic chefs from the Southeast.
Sure.
And brings a little bit of credibility to the market. Sometimes we complain that there is no credibility here, and now you have credibility. And now with Vivian coming here, there's been rumors about other people coming here as well, and it's great. I mean, I can suspect that, with Sean Brock going to Greenville, South Carolina, that's kind of, what happened to Greenville. Greenville was blank, and then...
Yeah, he's starting to help build that culture.
Well, I think Google went there, or somebody, or Audi or BMW went there, and just all of a sudden in this little small market became...
Oh, we thought it was because we went down for Euphoria, and that just changed the whole spectrum of things forever.
That too. Now,
yeah.
They have to work on it. BMW needs to work on their game for next year, because they've got some big shoes to fill with you guys. But
exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But they're almost there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but back to Vivian. She's fantastic. I had a chance to work with her many years ago, and before a lot of these chefs were as huge as they are now, we did a dinner at Pools with Ashley. Matt Brown was there. Scott Crawford, when he was still at
the Umstead.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
And we went down there. Manna went up there, I should say, to Raleigh, and we had a great dinner and met Vivian for really the first time. We'd met her at the restaurant, but it was more like, hi, and she said hi back, and she sent a dessert, and we loved it. And it was, it's amazing. Like Wilmington to me is Kinston, what Kinston has turned into. It's literally a 2-horse town. It's Mother Earth and it's Chef and the Farmer. And they have a baseball stadium there, and there's 8,000 people that live in that town, and they have people driving from Outer Banks and Raleigh and Greenville to go eat at that restaurant. And it's a lot to do with the fact that she's on TV, but it's a lot to do more to do with the fact that she's a fantastic cook, and
there's a good product out there, and even cool places to stay. Like Stephen Hill has been able to put together the Motor Lodge and the O'Neill, which are really cool. And he's of course the owner of Mother Earth, both the distillery and the brewery. Yeah. So that town is growing, much like. But even here in Wilmington, you've got breweries opening up. Was it New Anthem has been here for a few years now?
Not that long.
Not that long.
Not that long. Maybe a year.
Okay.
And again, you can't ask a restaurateur how long something's been here unless it's your own restaurant, because every day just bleeds into the next one. So it could be 5 years. I don't know. I don't think so. I would bet it's less than a year. But yeah, we've got 7 breweries, and I think that they're expecting 3 times that many next year. And it'll be, we'll rival Asheville. I mean, that's the thing Asheville has that Wilmington doesn't have, is it has a culture. It really does. And I think that's we're the same size. I mean, we're like Boulder, Colorado. If you guys have been there, that's a really fantastic food scene.
Yeah.
And it's
and a large concentration of master sommeliers also, which if it's added to the culture.
More than anywhere else. And it's 45 minutes from Denver, so it's kind of like Raleigh's the Denver and Asheville is the Boulder, and with Charleston so far, Charleston took a lot of shine off of us. I mean, when it blew up 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And then Savannah pulled it south, and then Raleigh took it, and then Asheville, and now it's Greenville and Nashville. And we started this thing called 40 Eats, and Dean's in it, and Keith's in it, and hopefully we'll get Vivian to be involved in it, and that will give us more credibility than we know what to do with. But it was basically like, hey, look at us.
Right.
We're not terrible. We got some good place to
explain
eat.
40 Eats to us.
So it was an idea that I actually stole, if you will, from some chefs in Denver. I was there for a fundraiser that we were preparing ourselves for, and we had met with a chef who was leaving Denver to move to Los Angeles, and he invited us. It just so happened to be a Sunday, once a month deal where 20 to 50 chefs from Denver would meet after their service, and they'd all bring a 6-pack or a bottle of liquor or a bottle of wine, and they would be someone would host them, a restaurant would host them, and that chef and his team would bust out a family meal for these chefs, and they would sit around and talk about health department woes and this lamb producer and this cheese guy and these and that's, and basically they were there to help each other out. They were cultivating culture. They weren't trying to hide. They weren't putting they weren't covering up their stuff.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And
unedited, unbridled. Yeah.
Here's the pile of stuff, guys. It's like let's use it, and let's take advantage of it, and let's be farm to table like we talk about doing, and let's put our arms around each other. And so I came here and I thought about it, and I reached out to a few people, and I had to have Keith on board, and he was for sure go. I mean, off the bat. And then we got Dean and James and Portland Grill, and then we took Tommy Mills, who's an old friend of mine and one of the best caterers in town, and used to run kind of the first small restaurant with farm to table eccentricities. And then we just kind of throw some dinners, and all the money we raise goes to charity. We pick a cool charity that's local, generally tied to food and generally tied to kids. And we throw a dinner. We've done like pig picking. We've done super Hoyt, haute cuisine with 12-course meal. We invited Ricky from Seafood Shack,
Salt Box.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he came and cooked with us before, and we've raised a bunch of money. We started a scholarship for the culinary department at the community college, and we've put some money in the till for the 40 Eats group that we can utilize to maybe
make a difference.
And also selfishly some PR for Wilmington and for our restaurant group.
Yeah,
and basically 40 Eats has its own website, and all of our restaurants are on that website, and it's just basically it's a co-op. That's what it is.
Yeah, and I want to talk. We've talked a lot about Wilmington and a lot about 40 Eats and some other great people in Wilmington, but I want to get into Manna. But one other thing before we did that, because one other thing you did for Wilmington was you went up with the group that cooked at the James Beard House last year, right? To do the NC Christmas?
It wasn't me. I know that we had Kyle McKnight for a while worked with us, and he was one of those guys that did it. We have not had the pleasure of going there yet. So.
Gotcha. Okay, well, but then more importantly, so Manna, I mean, you guys have been recognized for 2 years and maybe 3 years now, because my research might be old, or our research department
fire
might be old. Yeah, fire them. Whereas AAA 4 Diamond Awards.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty nice recognition.
Yeah.
And not to mention, you've had some pretty amazing people come through your doors, like the 2009 top 10 mixologist in the country, Joel was Finsil, so that's some good recognition all over. And not to mention, when the movie stars were here and the movie industry was a little bit more flourishing in Wilmington, all the movie stars would eat at Manna.
Yeah, we were very fortunate. It was a good time to be us then, and we've had a lot of folks run through those doors. I miss the film. That's one of the things that really crushed Wilmington, and it still does, and it has a lot to do with.
They changed the taxes, right, or something like that, or kickbacks.
Well, yeah, it was a rebate that was given to production companies, and it was, it was basically the people in Raleigh thought that these were all rich Hollywood people, and they didn't need any tax cuts, but they didn't realize what these people were bringing to the market as far as renting houses, buying food, coming to restaurants, plus tourism that came to see them, and all those hotels they bought, and all those. Yeah, it was a super clean business that they said this is terrible, and then they went to Atlanta, and Atlanta is the third biggest place in the world to shoot films at. That's a whole nother podcast we can talk about. But
when you say the people in Raleigh, you're not talking about the citizens of Raleigh. You're talking about the government house and
the citizens. That's all Raleigh's fault. No. Yeah, it was the people that we elected, the people that were elected to make decisions that were the best for every town and the state of North Carolina, and they made a bad decision. And they made us go in separate potties too, which was terrible. But in all seriousness, we try our best to bring people into town. We want to. I've been fortunate to work with some great wine people, some sommeliers that are world class. And I'm kind of a badger when it comes. If I want to get somebody here, I kind of find out how to get them. It's a lot to do with my booking band history. If I want a band, I go find out how to book them. I send emails. I just don't let it die until the guy's like, geez.
What's the biggest band you've brought to Wilmington?
Whew, man.
Top 3.
Rush, Primus?
I was involved with one of the Avett brothers' first shows here.
Oh, cool.
They would end up being huge. I don't so much go after big bands. I go after bands that become big. Let's say Mandolin Orange. Mandolin Orange is opening up for the Avett brothers for New Year's Eve. We try Raylan Baxter. There's a lot of bands that are sort of regional that I've fallen in love with, and now they're at the point you'll know about them in 2-3 years, and that's kind of what I've always tried to do with music.
That's for your Wilmington Unplugged, and then when you do regional bands, you do Wilmington Super Unplugged.
Super Unplugged is more, it's more of a sit-down kind of songwriter showcase where the band comes in, sits and talks, and strips down the music and says, "This song I wrote this in Charlotte when I was drunk and I was on Quaaludes, and I fell off of a bridge and lost some shoes, and
love that song,
and spit some teeth." But yeah, that's what Super Unplugged has become.
Losing shoes, always good inspiration for songs.
Any shoes in the song is pretty much you
need to have shoes. You have no shirts, no shoes,
no song.
No song. So, but yeah, we have some great cocktail people coming through. We've had some folks from Sea Grace come in, and Kevin Barrett's an old friend of ours, and he's come through before.
Well, he worked in Wilmington for a couple of years.
If you want to call that he did here working, yes, he lived here.
He owned a wine shop, I believe.
That's another kind of a weird word. He had a wine shop. He was a great bartender. He's a good friend of ours.
I just had a cocktail recently from Ian, who is now working at Dram and Draft.
Right.
Ian wanted me to ask you to explain what Ronnie James Dio means.
So Ronnie James Dio is something we say with when you have a beautiful woman that comes in, and it's time to turn on the extra charm and charisma flair, the Ric Flair flair. So Ronnie James Dio.
Who was, of course, the lead singer of Black Sabbath after Ozzy Osbourne
Correct.
left. He is the inventor of the devil horns.
Yeah, correct.
Yes.
And
He's the man on the Silver Mountain.
Yeah, that's as much as I can go on this. This is children listen to this, don't they?
Yeah.
It just
No,
means
this is a children's podcast.
It means to be on alert for a beautiful woman or man that's come into the bar and needs special attention.
So Manna, it kind of evolved out of the former restaurant that was there, which was Tango de Chat. Yeah, and
you were then an employee.
Right? I was an employee. Yes.
Yeah, and how did you come to be the owner of this fine establishment?
It's sort of like that. So I worked at Portland Grill. I left Portland Grill, went to open up Tango de Chat with a friend of mine who also worked at Portland Grill, and then I became a partner in the music venue that's next door that was then called Bella Festa, and then my wife became pregnant, or at the time was my girlfriend, because we live in sin.
Ooh.
And so
Bastards.
I got into the wine business, and then because I needed to get more of a 9-to-5 situation, because I'm a hard worker, and I'd come in early and I leave late, and she said, you're going to wake up one day and your son's going to be 15, and so I got in the wine business and left the restaurant business for 5 years. And the opportunity, Tango de Chat in the interim between that 5 years had been sold and turned it into three different things. And the landlord approached me, said, this was the only thing that ever succeeded in this building. Would you consider coming back? And I told him, absolutely not. I wasn't going to get back in the restaurant business. I was going to find my way in the wine world. And then I was passed over for a promotion, which really crushed me, because I realized that I wasn't going to be able to be promoted in this market in Wilmington. And I was willing to move to a bigger market, but I wasn't going to be able. They weren't going to let me go to another market. I felt like they needed me too much here, I guess, without sounding too cocky. But so anyway, I negotiated a better deal, and we got into Manna 7 years ago, and then we eventually took over Bella Festa, which now is called Bougie Nights, which is our kind of event space and music venue and auxiliary flex office, shag and wagon party. So. But yeah, I took it over, and I just kind of threw my hat in the ring, and I figured I was almost 40, and I needed to do something that was going to be.
You wanted your own thing.
Yeah, I was tired of working for other people, and I was tired of being overlooked, and and I looked back on opportunities that I had to go to Italy and to go to back to Austin, and I was just like, I might have to take it, That's why I tell my kids that we coach in sports. If you want something, you're going to have to go get it. So I went and got it. And back to your 4 Diamond deal, we were fortunate to be the only restaurant east of 95, other than the Chef and the Farmer, to have that award. We've done it 3 years in a row. The only restaurant ever in Wilmington to have that accolade. And hopefully we'll get our 4th in a row, and it's great. And again, I like those kind of awards because you don't know they're coming. I mean,
right.
the health lady, she's coming in, and so it's about time for her to get here. Let's clean everything up and let's be on our best behavior. Well, these people show up and they look at a lot of different things and they don't say, hey, I'm Max with AAA. They come in, they make reservations, they check you out on how you answer the phone and how they're seated and how the menus look and the silverware and the bathrooms and the whole deal. And,
yep.
There's not many of them that get it, so that's really, really a humbling accolade that we got as a team, and I'm excited about.
Well, let's talk about going into Manna. So what does a guest expect when they're coming in? What's the cuisine like? What's the cocktail situation like? And what's the ambiance?
We are kind of modern American, new American, whatever you want to call that kind of catchy thing. We've taken kind of classic sort of preparations in the French cooking sort of culinary angles, and then take local food and adding some Southwestern flavors, because our chef is from New Mexico, and so our culinary angle is a little bit here, a little bit of there, a little borrowed, very modern American. We've got a really great craft cocktail program. I think it's one of the best in the state. We've have people like Ian that have left here and grown into new roles in bigger markets. We have a guy who left our place and went to the Roosevelt Room in Austin, Texas.
I've been there.
So we it's kind of like, I guess, if you will, it's for Wilmington, it's you can't get much higher than behind our bar, and then if you want to do your own thing or get better, you've got to move. We try to overproduce when it comes to hospitality and being hospitable to when people come in and getting the door for them, and like really emphasizing Southern hospitality. We don't like to, when a special guest comes in, they get the same treatment that someone that we've never met gets. And that's kind of one of the things that I preach, is that everyone, you never know who this person, our special person that we've loved for 7 years, that supported us since for the beginning, could be walking in tomorrow, and we want to make sure that they feel welcomed. We want to go over the top when it comes to like all the extra little details that sometimes get overlooked. I push really hard on my team to not miss those things.
Like, give us an example. What are some of the details that get overlooked that you don't overlook at Manna?
I mean, you listen for a piece of silverware hitting the floor, and everyone hears that, but what does it mean to the person that's, you're eating, you hear the silverware, it doesn't make you stop. When I hear silverware, I stop and go, who's missing a fork?
Yeah.
That's a steak knife. I can tell by the weight. That's a steak knife. I'm immediately grabbing a marking tray. I'm immediately going to hunt down where I think it came from. And then guests, are...
Do you train that in? Or is that in situ?
Yeah, it's not in a manual. It's something that I kind of run around when I'm on the floor and I listen for, and I'm really observant. I try to be observant and overly observant, and I like when I have an opportunity to train, I'll bring a couple of servers and I'll see something that gets me riled up, and I'll say, let's look at table 12 right now from afar. What do you guys see from here that's wrong? And I'm training them to look other than just on top of the table. I'm looking at that napkin on the floor by the lady that just got up to go to the bathroom. I'm looking, that's what I want to get off the floor. When she gets back, she's got a fresh napkin. Some people don't recognize it, even as a guest, that's happened. Some do, and those are the ones we really want to go, wow, that person just saw that I got up, I've lost my napkin.
And now I got to say, just on like a very small level, how many times do you like drop your knife or silverware at a restaurant, and you're like looking around and nobody's bringing it, and you're like got a hot dish in front of you, but you can't eat it because you don't have a fork. Yeah. And it's like, when
I still subscribe to the 5-second rule, and I don't care. I just grab it and eat. Well, but that's not really what you're supposed to do.
But to the point, it's like when the server or manager or anybody's super on that, and they say like, here's a new fork before you can even think about it. That's awesome.
That's, to that point, we want to try to get that answer, that question answered before it's asked. And it doesn't, anybody can see someone's hand or looking around. They're looking around. They have needs, and we got to go find out what their needs are. I like to anticipate that this person's looking for another glass of wine. They're ready for another cocktail. They need this part of this table needs to be bussed, and they're preparing for the next meal. I need to go talk to them and find out how they're doing in the progression of their meal, and what can I do to make it better.
I used to have an owner of a previous restaurant I ran that would intentionally mess up tables that were not seated on his way to the bathroom, or just like drop a napkin or just create imperfections. Yeah. And then when he came out of the bathroom, he wanted to make sure that those things were fixed. So after a while, I caught it, and if I saw him going to the bathroom, I just said to everybody, all right, go in his wake and figure out what he just did.
No, but that's cool. But that he did that in a way like he's kind of just testing the waters.
Yeah.
But back to what you said, and I know you run the wine program also, so I want to get into that. But I'm a fast drinker. Like when I like a wine, I pretty much guzzle that. Like it goes quickly. So there's nothing more that bothers me at a restaurant when it's like I'm drinking wine. You see that I'm drinking wine. Make sure that if I have food in front of me, I have wine to pair with it. Or if I'm at a wine pairing and the wine doesn't arrive before the food, it drives me crazy. Right. And it not only is it bothering me, but it's probably bothering the owner, because you're losing out on if you're a guy like me, like you could easily get a third glass on that check if you pour in time. But if you're waiting, then it might just be 2 glasses.
Yeah, from a business perspective, that's not wise. You never want to leave those things unmet. But for me, the part that just crushes me is that it's not how it's supposed to be. And there's things that are, we can sit there. If a policy manual, literally, I don't really subscribe to a policy manual, and I do a lot of reading, and I kind of come from the Charlie Trotter school that there should be no policy manual. It should be common sense. We train on the fly. Our team trains. Everyone's equal. There are also people that feel like there has to be a policy manual there, but again, it's all about, observations. And when you're looking around, you're actually looking around for stuff to fix, not just staring for the art of having a cute stare. You gotta, when you're at a table in the back corner of a restaurant and you're walking towards the kitchen, you're glancing at all the tables on the way out. And for me as a manager, for me as a hospitality person, I try to be like a guru. I rip off my friend Bobby Stuckey. It's called a hospitalian, and it's a word he coined. And it's you never miss those things. You have one shot to throw a touchdown, and you throw it every time, and you just can't miss it. So when you're going by table 7 and you notice that they're low on water, and I look at table 8 and that guy's about to be out of wine, and table 9, that guy's done eating and his wife is not, and then I'm also having a meeting real fast in the weigh station, like water on 12, we get a bus on table 8.
Yeah. You're like the Mike linebacker or the linebacker that sees the guy go in motion. Oh, that means that's a run play to the left.
I'm the offensive coordinator, sir. I would be up in the
head on
booth.
a swivel, boys. Head on a swivel.
Looking at it all.
And just to reference, Bobby Stuckey out of Frasca in Boulder, Colorado, also master sommelier and also makes his own wine as well.
So do you have any Scarpetta in your back bar right now?
We have Scarpetta. We helped. I got, fortunately, him and his partner Lachlan. Came and cooked for us.
They did that. I experienced that.
That's amazing.
Scenario.
And they're so smart. It's just such a. That's
what is that?
So like me being in the wine business, we would have a winemaker come into town, and they would you tote them around to about 5 or 10 different spots.
Yeah.
And you got to get on a time, like 8 o'clock with you, 9 o'clock with you, and you got to keep that's sort of the schedule rolling. Well, these guys say, no, here's what we're going to do. We want you to invite all the people to your restaurant, and we're going to cook for them. We're going to pour wine for them. We're basically going to do a lunch for you, a 3 or 4 course lunch for you with our wines.
And he's bringing the chef.
And his chef's there, and he's talking about the wine all at one time. Done.
Nice.
So Lachlan Patterson is a James Beard winner. I believe he's a Michelin winner. It's
better saying what he hasn't won.
Right.
What he has.
Lachlan is the shit. He's done a ton. And Bobby Stuckey is a master sommelier. Collectively, they created Scarpetta. I know a little bit about this because I used to sell Scarpetta in Los Angeles. But they do that, and they take over and dominate. I mean, they took over Animal, and they took over. They were only open for dinner, so they took over a lunch, off shift, and brought 35 of the best sommeliers in Los Angeles and did a 4 or 5 course Italian meal, because Fresca and Scarpetta are both like Northern Italian influenced restaurant and winery. So everything just drove you all to that spot. And the guys from Animal, who are amazing chefs themselves, were just like, I just want to be in the kitchen and watch Lachlan do his thing.
Yep, it's that. And they did. I helped get them in the market. I mean, I made some phone calls. I put some emails together because I wanted to get Scarpetta this way and help open that door, which also opened some doors with other sommeliers like Dustin Wilson and of course Jeff Kellogg is a new guy in the Charlotte market with Kellogg Selections. And
we love Kellogg Selections.
He's amazing, and Sabado comes with that, and there's Jordan Salcido. There's now I'm getting my hands and my opportunity to speak to people like Raj Parr and people that we would never normally get here, because Bobby and those guys have come here and basically said, hey, it's not a bad spot. They came the first time through with Scarpetta, and they did a dinner, I think, or a lunch. They did the same thing with us. But for them to come, it signifies that we're not a bad spot, and that's the one thing that I try to emulate a lot of those guys. I guess he's a man crush of mine. When I go to Boulder, which I go once or twice a year, I always sit in on pre-service. I try to stage with him. I try to follow him around. Now they've opened up another restaurant called Tavernetta. They got Pizzeria Locali, there's about 4 or 5 restaurants all over the country.
Bobby does have like leading man good looks, so it's an easy crush to fall into.
And they've got, they're from the French Laundry. They were one of the first people hired at French Laundry, and so they're one of the.
They got good pedigree.
They got a great pedigree.
So now that we're talking about wine, is there a focus at Manna for the wine program? Or
the focus when we first started was to have like 100 killer small production wines, and I've managed to get 300 in there now, and I just am overwhelmed by this massive list that's there. It's gotten to the point now where it's actually an entire employee, the wine list, and so I have the 1099 it. In seriousness, I wanted to have with my wine experience, I've always enjoyed family-owned wineries. I've always enjoyed small production wineries. I've always enjoyed wines from passionate folks that are like me, that that don't know if they're going to make it. They went all in on this thing. They're not selling wine at the grocery stores. They don't have.
Yeah, they're farmers before they're winemakers.
Exactly. They don't have. Most of them don't have millionaire parents. Most of them don't have thousandaire parents. They have a dream. They went and chased after it. They worked in restaurants, and now there's this kind of new sort of the psalm wines. These psalms are getting out of the restaurants, and then they're starting to do wines. So our list is all over the map. We try to catch what's good in most of the different regions around the world. It's kind of heavily focused on California, which is my sort of specialty, if you will. I'm learning a little bit more about France and about Italian wines. I was always interested in Spanish wines, so I have a very strong Spanish sort of angle there. And
a lot of great value in Spain too.
Well, get it while you can. It's not going to happen much longer.
Exactly.
They're starting to understand what they have there. And
it's going to Greece, that value wine.
Greece and Lebanon.
Yeah.
The list is big. It's huge. If you want some stuff that's there's not a lot of folks in this market right now that have the stretch of wines that we have. I'm stealing wines from people like Matt Mahler at Vin Rouge and people in Charlotte that have a really great program and curate and things of that nature. So I get awesome emails from those guys on occasion like, hey man, I heard you got the last 4 bottles of XYZ. And I'm like, yeah, sorry, you snooze, you lose. That's what you've been doing for the last 5 years, bro. So,
so business-wise, though, how does that work? I mean, obviously, people that come into Manna, they know that you have a pretty awesome wine list. They know the level of hospitality they're getting. But even with that, it's the rare consumer that is drinking those types of bottles on the allocation list as opposed to your California driver.
We're trying to build this culture where there's trust involved, and they understand that they can come in and they can pick their Paul Hobbs wine off the list if they feel comfortable having that.
Sure.
But we also give our servers and our front of the house team the leverage to say, listen, you like that? I have some fun stuff that's in that same sort of boat, price range, region, or are you interested in trying some fun stuff? And we do, a weekly wine college on Wednesdays where we have staff trainings and we kind of slowed down a little bit over the last month or so because it's gotten so busy with operations, but January we'll kick that back off. We invite.
Is the wine college for guests as well, or
we've had guests there.
Yeah.
It's mainly for us, and we're going to start kicking back off like a wine university that I will sort of head, and I'll try to get some wine people that are in town to lead when they're there, and we'll do that, and they'll be open to the public. But in essence, it's an opportunity for our staff to taste some wines, to get comfortable with some of these wines, to learn about some varieties that they may not have known. Talk about regions and that they may not have known. That's the major hurdle that we have to talk about is when we talk about a Trousseau or some crazy hard to pronounce Basque white wine. Mm-hmm. You have to kind of figure out what it tastes like and then get the people in that are talking about that flavor.
We talk about this all the time, and I just like preaching to those of you who listen out there who are not wine professionals or connoisseurs, but you know what you like. Let your professionals tell you what you want. Tell them the type of wines you drink on a regular basis, the type of flavors you like as best as you can describe it. Give them a price range. Don't be scared to give them a price range, and let them find something that is delicious for you. Allow that to your dining experience, please.
Yeah, because it's so much knowledge that a wine professional devotes. Like, that's what they do.
Yeah.
Give them a chance to give you something that you like. You probably know a lot about whatever craft you do, and you don't like when other people jump in and say, I got this, I can do this.
You don't tell your accountant how to do your taxes, do you?
Oh, I do. And I say, cheat as much as you possibly can.
Or your surgeon, are you sure that's my appendix there,
right.
Doc?
And what a perfect time to get a word from our sponsor, Triangle Wine Company. I mean, everyone there really is a professional. They care about wine. They taste wine daily. So let them do the heavy lifting and figure out what's best for you. Give them a budget or just go online. Go to trianglewineco.com. That's trianglewineco.com and log in, place your orders. Guess what? They'll deliver to your house. It's really simple. And the best part is, because you listen to the NCFB podcast, you can use our promo code. Just type in NCFB and get 10% off your entire order. And if you get a 6-pack, you get an additional 10% off. So guys, the savings is right there, and it's fun. All right, back to the show. Enough sales. But seriously, shop at Triangle Wine Company. It's pretty awesome.
We use that analogy a lot, and that's the thing. And of course, you got to read the guest. You have to understand if they're willing to go that direction or if they're not. And a lot of people, the culture we're trying to invite is the ones that come in and say, look, can the chef prepare me, especially off weekend nights, Tuesdays and Thursdays and Wednesdays, that we have people walk in and say, would you guys be interested in devising like a tasting menu? And absolutely, we can do that.
Right.
Do you want to have I can go find 2 bottles, a white bottle of white and a bottle of red that would go with that. And they love those sort of things. And we try to encourage guests to take that route. But again,
Half bottles? Do you have bottles?
we don't have a very big half bottle list. The half bottles are relatively expensive. It's mostly like Costa Browns and things that are hard to get your hands on.
That you just, because of the allocation, you're like, well, I guess we'll take the half bottles.
Take it. Yeah, it's just, I mean, you guys should come see our cellar. We have an entire basement. I think I have one of the coolest cellars literally in the state. I don't know that was free. I mean, or not free, but there's people that probably have nicer places to store their wine, but this is actually under our building, and it's pretty well organized, and it's in good relative humidity, and it's got pretty normal temperature in there, and it's just kind of a fun little space to be in. I wish it was neater, and I wish there was a cooler way to get down there besides our murder steps that are down there, so we could have diners come in and eat down there.
Do you do a lot of falling upstairs?
Yeah,
falling downstairs.
I'll tell you a funny story if I can about falling down these steps. These steps are pretty steep, and we had only been open for maybe 6 or 7 months, I think. And I had just went home and showered and come back, and I had my jacket over my shoulder. I was clean and pressed, and I was going to go downstairs and put away my cell phone, which I never carry on, and get my wine tool and grab a pen and get my stuff together, my flashlight for my dim restaurant, and so we could see wine lists and stuff. And I took one step. It had been raining a little bit, and I took one step off going downstairs, and I literally was parallel to the ground instantaneously.
Oh.
And I reached out, just like you might do, just to kind of save yourself, and I grabbed the water main and pulled the whole water main off.
Oh.
And the water main pressure hit a planter that was just dirt, and it knocked it off, and it landed on my shoulder, broke on my shoulder. So on my jacket hand, I have broken ceramic, mud, and water, and I'm like sitting at the bottom, and everyone comes running to my aid. They look down this landing, and they said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "We're closed." And
just with water main break.
The water main was dumping, and we just literally fed the people that had food available, and we were like, call everybody it was a Friday night too. It was like amazing to lose all that business.
So, Billy, that brings me a good segue to bring up another thing that shows your stick-to-itiveness, because you've had a couple of pitfalls and challenges with this business. And I only bring this up because it's the first thing that actually comes up when you Google your name. But you had a big scandal go on with one of your opening chefs. When you first opened, well, maybe it was a year in or so.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to elude this. We're in the process of trying to tell this story, and we want to tell this story kind of once. I'll tell you some stories around it. I'll tell you that. Yes.
So let me just preface, if I can.
Yeah.
There was a chef that was alleged of stealing, of $130,000 embezzling from the restaurant, maybe more than that.
Definitely more than
and then ignorantly fled to Austin, Texas, and was found because some restaurant announced him as the new executive chef, and then Wilmington federal officers alerted Austin police.
Well, Facebook also helped too when they were doing check-ins on the way down there. That was kind of helpful.
Yeah, they were doing check-ins.
Oh, so it was genius.
Yeah, they were very smart thieves.
When it happened, it was really at the wrong time. You guys in the restaurant business, you guys know particularly that it's like 1 out of every 5 fail.
Yeah, in the first year.
Or maybe more. And we were right there at the time where we needed everything to go right. It was 2010. If you guys remember, stock markets were, and the real estate was
it was not a good time.
Yeah. Terrible. I remember, and when we're opening the restaurant, the mayor is doing a ribbon cutting in front of our restaurant, and he says, "Who has the audacity and the cojones to open up a white table restaurant, white tablecloth restaurant in the middle of the worst economic depression that we've ever known?" And I was like, "Oh my God!"
Thanks, Mayor.
Yeah, really uplifting there.
I was like, "Can we look at? Is there any ways out of this lease?" But no, we did well, and again, I don't want to sound cocky, but I had worked in this market for so long that I felt like I had chiseled away my road to get here. And most of the people that come support us at Manna are people that I waited on their kids. And now those kids are 35 and I'm taking care of them and their families. And I have 20-year-old relationships with folks that I bartended for, that I got a guy that I spilled oil on one time he had a business dinner, and that he still calls me the Exxon Valdez guy, Captain Joe Hazelwood. He calls, "Hey, Captain Joe," and he tells him the story about it. I got a guy that when I was in Finland, he calls me when I was in Iceland, and I have to correct him every time about being in Iceland. I was not in Iceland. I went to Iceland, but I was living in Finland. But the thing was, it happened at a time where we fortunately were just busy enough that we could get through all that. And I had a lot of questions to be answered from some big time people that don't give a damn whether or not it was stolen or what happened to it. They were like, "Give us our money," the end. And we battled through it, and we're in the process. I'm working on an opportunity to do like a story cookbook about this, and I'm trying to figure out how to write it into more of a first person narrative, nonfiction cookbook, comic book, wrestling, drop it like it's hot deal.
That sounds
like
awesome.
the best lemonade out of lemons I've ever heard. That's a pretty positive way of looking at it.
Yeah, and I've got a really good friend of mine who's a fantastic writer, and I'm trying to wait him out because I want him to help me write it, because if he has avenues to publishers and people that would be really high on getting this, because obviously you got to get in the right hands. You can write a great book and no one reads it, no one knows about it, it doesn't matter. We want to write a really good book about what we've done. We're not innovating any sort of recipes. We have created a lot of stuff on our own, but we're more of a concept restaurant than we are a chef-driven restaurant or a Billy Mellon restaurant. It's about all of us, and I'll always be. I've never taken a raise in 7 years. I barely make enough money to pay my rent and pay my mortgages and things of that nature. But it's I try my best to make sure my kitchen staff is taken care of, and the dishwashers are taken care of, and our floor staff gets I work extra hard to make sure that they get taken care of. And so again, this whole story about Manna is way more than me, way more than getting past hurdles. It's about a bunch of people that really bought into the system and stuck it out and really cared, and and that's why we're 7 years in, and hopefully we get at least 7 more.
Yeah, it's almost like a how-to book as well as a good story.
Well, and anyone taking money from a restaurant is like a bully stealing food stamps from somebody. It's like, dude, we're already not doing so well. Right. We're trying to just keep above water.
I will tell you this, and this is I believe this wholeheartedly, and I never want to give this guy any sort of props, but had that person kept his hands clean, we would be in a whole different plateau.
Right.
I honestly think he is a phenomenal cook. He really knows. He is very flamboyant. He's great with guests. I mean, he is the quintessential Marco Pierre White. I mean, he can talk to people. He knows how. He doesn't care. Mm-hmm. We did that dinner. When we did that dinner at Ashley's Stir the Pot thing, or what was that? I forget what it's called.
Yeah, Stir the Pot.
No Kid Hungry.
Oh.
He did this crazy lamb shank, and he was Jewish, and he added Israeli stuff to it as well as Palestinian spices, and he called it like blasphemy Ras Al Hanout lamb shank, and everyone that was there was like, it was pretty good, like it might have been the best thing on the menu, and no one knew. We were literally the new kids on the block, and Ashley, I think, couldn't find like someone to do that. There was like 30 people she asked, and finally we'll do it. And so we did it, and it was fun. But yeah, I think we'd be in a great place, a higher, more recognizable place PR-wise if he'd have been there. But I'm much happier on the road we went on.
Well, it sounds like his greatest talent is also his greatest weakness, because that's probably that charm and personality is what got him caught in the first place. But I don't bring that whole story up to be, we're not a gossip show,
Right.
but I think more importantly is the stick-to-itiveness and the success after that you've had and I love the story that you're writing in the book, because that shows like you kind of said, fuck it, no matter what, we're still making this place successful.
Yeah, there was a little bit of time. There was probably 1 or 2 days where I sat back and thought, what am I going to do? Are we going to, we can shut the doors, we can run like he is, and we can declare bankruptcy and run. Or, I'm not going to let this get in the way of what it wasn't really a dream for me. It was more of a ends to, a means to an end. It was a way for me to do something that I thought I was good at, that I could do it for a while. I could be my own boss. I could see my son on occasion. I could try to be a good husband, or I can go back and quit and figure out these guys are going to chase me down for a long, long time. And I was, I guess stick-to-itiveness is the way I'm stubborn. My grandmother was stubborn. She's Czech, and my mom is really stubborn. And I hadn't failed before, and I just didn't want that to be the one. I didn't want that to be the one I failed. I could fail later on at something that's dumber, but I just wasn't going to let that guy put an end to my.
Yeah, he's not writing your last chapter.
Heck no.
Amen.
I love it. And for all of you that want to know who he is, too bad we're not going to say his name.
But get his book when it comes out. But dude, you're an English teacher. I mean, get your book, Billy's book.
My book. Yeah. It'll be great. We haven't figured out. If I say something right now, will it be copyrighted? Am I able to because I already have a working title.
That's fine.
Yeah.
And this episode's probably not going to air for like a month.
Well, then you better not steal it. There's going to be something like a no chef jacket required, kind of the Phil Collins sort of.
Oh, nice.
But we're gonna, it would be one of those things where I don't have a whole lot of time, to write a book, and I don't have a whole lot of time. I mean, I do a lot of stuff, and I'm always there. I think I still work more than 65 hours a week, which is stupid for this long. But I feel like if I don't, I miss things, and that's one of the things that I feel like we bring to the table is we don't miss things. If we do miss things, it really eats me up, and I really have to try to figure out why we'd missed that. And didn't I say that? And I have to ask the staff, am I asking too much to listen for the silverware falling on the ground, or am I asking too much for when a guest sits down in the dining room for us to make sure we remind them that there's a bathroom on this side so that they don't walk around like zombies going restroom, restroom.
Well, Billy, thank you so much, man. One thing I realized is that we missed paying our parking meter earlier, and we probably just got a nice parking ticket.
Don't pay it.
Damn you, Max.
I just realized
we're with the food mayor of Wilmington. He'll cover it.
Let's see what we can do about that. Let's hand it to me if you got a ticket, and we'll walk down there and we'll appeal it. We'll see what happens. I got a great attorney. This is probably due by Sam Potter and Associates.
Thank you, Sam.
And we'll do our best to get it taken off your register. If not, just change license plates and just don't pay it.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Billy, thank you very much. Benny of Manna, I appreciate it. Matt, what do you got?
Hey, guys. Come to Wilmington again. Another great example of why you should be here. Go eat at Manna, and you will eat and drink very merrily.
Thanks for listening to the NCF&B podcast. And if you've stuck with us this long, review us on iTunes, and remember, 5 stars are encouraged.